Paqueto Monster. Flight is so casual in this series now. Remember when money was sometimes a concern in the earlier episodes? The Pokemon world has really refined international travel. Dot comes in sight pretty quick, but before they can even reach out to her, Murdoch explodes with familial force as her uncle. I've always enjoyed how he's been characterized, very paternal, while Dot's still characterized as a buzzkill. Love how inquisitive Murdoch is about Ult. The kid's just great at commanding attention. That can be a compliment or not, depending on how you look at it. That's why we need the people and Pokemon to keep a divisive character like him in check. It's all pretty lighthearted considering the circumstances, a pastry platter, Katie nickname washing several Mons. The big news is that Rockruff's evolved into a Lechonk. Well, a midday Lycanroc, just a Lechonky one. Apparently this new fan favorite was living large as Murdoch's taste tester. Once it evolved, it practically needed a second stomach to keep eating sweets. We don't often get chubby Mons, so what a treat. The very ones that Lycanroc should lay off of. By contrast, I'm kind of annoyed by Ult's gluttony. It's really only cute when the Mons do it. Turns out he might just be nervous around all ladies, which kind of puts the Liko crush theory to rest. He's not awestruck, just awkward, except when he can't tell they're girls, which would have been extra believable before Dot let her hair down. The boy's brains just short-circuit around short haircuts. He does get them back on track to explain the situation. Having heard it, Murdoch is a lot less harsh than Molly was over the kid's actions, almost like he wants to be convinced. Katie's got to wait for them to prove themselves, and it's with a battle. Rematch time against Katie, and just like the League Club room in the games, she's now got an Ursa ring. Despite them following in the games, it would have been a sick opportunity to show off Ursa Luna. Well, Bloodbear better make an appearance at some point. Katie picks her own opponent, and it's Poggy. Surely disappointing Meowscarada doesn't get to redeem herself. It's also going to be a tough balancing act for the writers. How do you give your main character a legendary and not have it be an automatic win button? We find those answers in Pogogo's first trainer battle. The first step is to make the animation so lackluster the hits feel anything but impactful. You also significantly decrease the strength of aforementioned legendary. Liko commands a casual charge towards Ursa Ring. It's like they're playing chicken until they collide, but that's the main issue. Visually the collisions look weak, and therefore so does the tension. Energy does pick up once Ursa Ring gets a terrestrialization. Ancient Power does about squat to halt it, but once it's in range, Terra Cluster can be used as a somewhat anticlimactic finishing blow. While this victory wasn't overly grand, it was one that Liko needed. Her most important win here was getting Murdoch's blessing for their travels. So if they want to stay on the move, they'll need a more convenient way to do it. What better way to do that than with the Brave Olivine, but according to Murdoch, it's been disassembled. Setting up the idea that Molly's been struggling. Whether or not they retrieve the old ship or get a new one, who's gonna pilot it if Freed's been splattered across a mountain range? Those answers this newfound group of 4 will have to get from Orla herself. Once out of sight, Murdoch reveals the true admiration he has for the kids. On top of the regret for making the call to separate them from their homes in the first place. Feelings that I'm sure are shared mutually amongst the Voltackers around the globe. This had the makings to be a great episode. A reunion with one of the RBTs, a redemption match against a gym leader, even the assembly of all the kids in one place. Despite everything it has going for it, to me it still comes across as an average episode. Although it was a Murdoch meetup, Katie's the one that gets the spotlight. It'll also be tiptoeing a fine line to make Liko seem not OP with this bomb in her pocket. The main way I can see to have that make sense is to have Pogogo still in the state of recovery, but that isn't made explicitly clear in this episode. As well, the impact of the kids' reunion hinges somewhat on how much one cares for Ult, a character I'm still learning to appreciate. Overall, I give this one a C. So, having just about teleported, the group's made it from Paldea to Galar. Love Dot relenting not having the ship, even though they've been hopping from coast to coast practically overnight. They wonder if Orla's doing well, and spoiler, she isn't. She looks totally worn out to the point even the Mons look concerned. Orla's made her way back to the Pokeball developer, Karna. This could just be me, but I was more excited to see Poltegeist than either of them. What I would give to have one of the kids catch it. Anyways, Karna's clumsy, I guess? Didn't specifically remember that from her debut in episode 29, but I did remember her and Orla's chemistry. They've got some mysterious assignment from an undisclosed source. While discussing it, Karna basically tells Orla that she's gotten boring. Can assume it's because Orla's lost her spark. Of course it's because she's grieving over Freed. Gotta appreciate prankster Polte there to calm the tension. I am unsure how the kids found Orla there, but they did. They get to introducing themselves, and Ult seems fine with this woman. Maybe he only freaks out when they're a few centimeters away. Still, 2 women is overwhelming for anyone. He is good at keeping the story progressing, cutting to the point of their objective. For the umpteenth time, we get explained what the plot is, leading to the request for a new ship. Seems something about his attitude inspired Orla to see Freed and Roy, both being the ones to request an airship from her. Unfortunately, Orla's still despairing quite a bit. we can see the various effects that Freed's freefall had, Orla seeming to take it the hardest. Perhaps it's a combination of how close they were, plus, well, it was her vehicle he fell out of. Liko mentions waiting for the air to clear, to which Ult responds, "Ain't air just for breathing?" Honestly, I do like how he makes complex themes seem simple. Caps off to him. Caps off in general. Funny way to write Ult out of the episode while the OG trio makes a discovery. Murdoch fed them false information. The brave Olivine and the Shipmon are alive and well. They just need to find out if that's the same case for Freed. Lots of people wondered what the Shipmon have been up to, and turns out Orla didn't render them homeless. They've been hanging out with her since she parked them there a year ago, fending for themselves but only truly happy around the trainers. Something reflected in Cap, who has more pep than he's had in a while. Karna's convinced her co-worker's being dishonest with herself. Come to think of it, after the fun was over, all the adults just went and got jobs, which is a practical distraction for what they're going through. Their attention may be elsewhere, but those painful feelings still need addressed. Otherwise, Orla's repressed herself, unable to move forward. Feels not often for the series to have such a long arc focused on depression. Unlike most characters who usually bounce back in an episode or two, the RBTs have been struggling for over a year. Still, Orla has found a way to stay connected to Freed, and that's through the airship. Whether a conscious or subconscious decision. Without permission, the kids perused the ship and made another discovery. Orla's been keeping the ship in mint condition, a way that she's been coping. This all really resonates with the experience of loss, holding on to hope, denial, or even anger at your situation. The awkward silence that follows when it feels like there's nothing left to say. In a sense, Liko feels like they're keeping Freed alive by continuing the adventure, living by his creed. Cap symbolizes even without Freed, they need to keep steering the ship. That seems to hit home for Orla, but the therapy session's cut short. Members of the Explorers are there to collect the order. At risk of her job, Karna puts her blind faith in this boy she just met yesterday. Upon getting the explanation on what this order is for, morally Karna and Orla can't complete the job. New members arrive with much more main character energy than the prior two, determined to get the balls. To make that happen, 2 Tauros are called out. I've never seen the Paldean Tauros, and I must admit I love their designs, potentially more than the originals. Big fan of edgy aesthetics. With quite the violent Pokédex descriptions backing these mons, I can't deny this cliffhanger left me wanting to see more. I enjoyed this episode much more on a rewatch. PTSD in my Pokemon anime certainly looked that way from these flashbacks haunting the crew. Orla created much more emotional impact in her return episode than Murdoch did. She got way more focus in general, which is neither here nor there, but seeing her plight was engaging. Has she been lying to the crew all this time about the ship being dismantled? I just can always appreciate the moments the series takes on hard topics like depression. This episode handled it really well. For that, I give a B. Wow, 100 episodes, 100 reviews, and for both, some better than others. This episode truly feels like a milestone. We have Indy and Rubella looking menacing. It's the first battle with the whole squad, and must say, Sableye looks so out of place. Consequence of the kids hardly rotating their teams when they're together. Animation-wise, Raging Bull looks super solid. This episode looks great in general, including these 2 new fave mons of mine, hoping we get introduced to the combat form as well. Dot observes these bulls are aware of type advantages, acting independently just like the Stunfisk. At least these ones can vaguely follow orders. Nice to see how Ult's assimilating the way he syncs up with Dot. He's got his place in the group. Hard to imagine they should be struggling at all at this point, strong spears or not. This is the same Crocolore that flew over Quasar. Feels like a Loquium sign of the power scaling being wonky. Sableye goes in to confuse the Aqua breed, who's unable to evade it, with the Blaze breed unable to avoid the other. Loquium's effect has these bulls acting on base instinct. Brawn is up, but brain is down. Liko and Roy test the theory by forcing the 2 to follow their type advantage. Once crashed into each other, they're like sitting Psyducks. Strikes from all 4 of their opponents finish the job. Indy and Rubella are just in shock. It's their own undoing using the spears, basically making them useless as trainers. Ultimately, the group just lets them go about their business. They don't interrogate them or anything, just call it a day. There's concern these spears could spread around the globe. If that's the case, they need a way to deal with the international issue. Orla's convinced Freed would take action. Thus, she is the first one of the crew the kids were able to convert. Reconvert, that is. It is a super touching moment, Liko embracing her is the cherry on top. We get a charming montage of the brave Olivine coming together, punctuated with Pikachu back at the helm. Before they can take off, there is a surprise revealed. Molly and Murdoch got a lasting impression. They are also determined to reform the RBTs, even putting their careers and family aside to do so. When you think about it, it's all thanks to Roy. Okay, not all, but if he hadn't hunted down Liko, who knows if this reunion would have happened. Although he didn't get a focus episode, even Ludlow the goat's on board. According to Ludlow, the waves informed him when it was time to fly again. Would be funny though if he had just never left. Orla so busy doing maintenance, she just never noticed him. So, since this rendition of the Rising Volt Tacklers belongs to the kids, the others ask to be invited in. A moment that felt like passing the torch. Even Ulk gets a semi-formal welcome to the crew, only as a cabin boy since it's obvious who the captain is. This whole reunion felt grand, a commemorative 100th episode for sure, one that contains big news. About a month ago, a message went to voicemail. Freed is alive and honestly seems peppy. He mentions being monitored by the explorers who haven't given him an opening to escape. Darkest route this could go is Freed did perish and the explorers are replicating his voice. Fairly positive though that this is confirmation he's alive. But still, the voice could be simulated. It could be that Spinel has him locked up and are attempting to lure the RBTs to him. Either way, hope's restored and it's right what Orla needed, giving her the confidence to bid farewell to Karna. Tough because I like Karna and Orla about as much as I like Freed and Orla, especially considering the sick custom Pokeball gift. Wonder if Karna would return with something caught in it. On top of this new hype is some nostalgic music. The Rising Volt Tacklers are back. Ceremoniously, so is the iconic handshake. Things are looking up both for the RBTs and the plot. Cut to Spinel, who is no stranger to dashing hopes. He is unbothered by the resurgence of his enemies to the point it is a bit alarming. The last 2 episodes have been on a roll. Mega Voltage has had highs and lows for me. This episode was up though. Since the beginning of this arc, things are finally starting to feel optimistic. It's as if the series is saying, it's time for an RBT counterattack. Yes, this arc has felt slow, but this was a payoff, a meaningful reunion of the crew that took months to realize. As for Freed, apparently he's been researching Laquium. Could he find a purpose for it, or simply be looking for the core to destroy it? That is, if the message was really him, not something tampered with by Spinel, who seems to have really cemented himself as the main villain of Horizons. Anticipating more fun twists to come, I give this another B.